out! You disgraceful child! You have brought shame to this house!
The rain had been falling that evening, not the playful kind that makes children dance barefoot, but the heavy, punishing kind that beats the earth like a drum of sorrow. In that storm stood Abeni, a 16-year-old secondary school girl with trembling hands, a swollen belly, and a future already judged by the world before she could speak for herself. Her father's voice thundered louder than the rain. "Get out, you disgraceful child! You have brought shame to this house." Those words struck her harder than any slap ever could. She stood there in shock, soaked and shaking. The door slammed behind her, and with it, every memory of safety she had ever known. Abeni wept. It felt like her heart had been yanked out and left on the wet floor like a piece of cloth meant for the very laundryman who had ruined her life. Kunle. That was his name. The boy who promised her forever behind the school fence. The boy who said he loved her. The boy who said, "Nothing will happen. I will take care of you." She believed him. Now she was homeless, pregnant, and alone. With nowhere else to go, she went to the dry cleaning shop where Kunle worked. She imagined him hugging her and promising to stand by her. That was the only hope she had left. Kunle froze when he saw her. "Abeni, what are you doing here?" he whispered harshly. "My father chased me out," she said, holding her belly with one hand. "I don't have anywhere to go."
Kunle looked around nervously, like a thief afraid of being caught. "You shouldn't come here. My boss might see you and get angry. Please leave." "Leave." The word stabbed her again. "But Kunle, Before she could finish, the bell above the door jingled. A woman entered the room, every inch a portrait of wealth and sophistication. She wore a flawless HOH lace gown, perfectly fitted. Her heels clicked confidently against the floor, her designer purse swinging lightly at her side. The scent of wealth followed her like perfume. Her name was Temilade. "Baby," she said sweetly. Kunle's lips curved into a polite smile. Abeni's heart sank. Temilade's eyes fell on the pregnant girl. Who is she? The question hung in the air like a test from heaven. Abeni looked at Kunle with hope, waiting for him to claim her. "She's nobody, just a street beggar," he said calmly. "She came to ask for money." Abeni's world shattered. Not just broken, shattered. The man who made her pregnant had just erased her existence like chalk on a blackboard. Temilade frowned and reached into her purse. She pulled out a few notes and flung it toward Abeni without even looking at her. "Take this. Go and find something to eat." The money landed at Abeni's feet like an insult. Abeni stared at Kunle, waiting, hoping, begging him with her eyes to correct the lie. But he said nothing. He just looked away. Tears finally fell, slow and painful. Without picking up the money, she turned and walked out. Her steps were heavier. The world had become colder. She was never loved. She was only used and discarded. The rain swallowed her cries as she returned to her father's house for the last time, hoping maybe, just maybe, that a father's anger would cool when he saw her tears. But when he opened the door, he didn't even let her speak. "I told you not to come back here." He shut the door again. That was the night Abeni became an orphan. Not because her parents died, but because they chose to abandon her. And so the journey begins. A journey of pain. A journey of survival. Abeni had nowhere to go. The night was cold, her clothes were soaked, and her heart was empty. Every step she took felt like a goodbye to the girl she used to be. The laughter, the dreams, the school uniforms, the innocence, all gone. She walked without direction, without hope, and without strength. At the end of the long road, she saw it. a white building with blue windows, glowing faintly under the moonlight. A sign hung above the gate, Celestial Church of Christ, Mountain of Mercy. Mercy. That was the word she needed.
She stood at the entrance, afraid. Would they also chase her away? Would they look at her belly and see shame instead of a human being? Gathering her last courage, she knocked. An elderly one opened the gate, her eyes soft and kind. "Child, what do you want?" Abeni broke down immediately. "I have nowhere to go," she sobbed. "My father sent me out." The woman looked at her for a long moment, not with judgment, but with understanding. "Come inside," she said quietly. And just like that, the girl the world rejected found shelter in the house of prayer. Inside the church, the air was peaceful. Candles flickered. A few people were praying softly. The woman brought Abeni a dry cloth and warm tea. "My name is Prophetess Esther," she said. "No child will be turned away here." Those words felt like balm on Abeni's wounded soul. From that night on, Abeni became a part of the church. She swept the floors, she washed people's prayer garments, she helped those who came for spiritual work, fasting and deliverance. People gave her small tips, little offerings, tokens of appreciation. She never asked for money, but God always made sure someone gave her something. And with those little gifts, she started selling fruits by the roadside. Oranges, bananas, apples, pawpaw, and different varieties of fruits. Every morning she would arrange them neatly, her big belly reminding her of the life she was fighting for. Some people bought out of pity. Some bought out of kindness. Some bought because they simply liked her smile, a smile she forced through her pain. And in that fruit store, her resilience began to grow. Days turned to weeks, weeks turned to months. Then, one evening, under the gentle sound of church hymns, Abeni went into labor. The women gathered around her, holding her hands, encouraging her, praying for her. "Push, child, push!" Her screams filled the room, but her faith held her strong. And then, a cry of a newborn pierced the night. A bouncing baby boy. They placed him on her chest, warm and fragile. She looked into his face and froze. He looked exactly like Kunle. Same eyes, same nose, same lips. Abeni's heart ached, but she hugged the baby tightly. "You will not suffer the way I suffered," she whispered. "Your name will be Imole, light." Because he was the light that kept her alive. But far away from the church, the man who denied her was rising, climbing into wealth, luxury, and comfort. Kunle had always believed that life was a ladder, and in his mind, love was not something you climbed with, it was something you stepped on. That was the kind of man he was. The day Abeni walked into his workplace with tears in her eyes, carrying the weight of her father's rejection and the evidence of his irresponsibility in her womb, Kunle did not see a girl who needed help. He saw a problem. A problem he needed to erase before it ruined his chance at a better life. And Temilade was not just a customer and his lover, she was an opportunity. She came from the kind of family that didn't count money, they commanded it. The kind that didn't beg for respect, they owned it. The kind that could turn a poor laundry boy into a man of status overnight. Kunle had seen that and he had made his choice. That was why he denied Abeni. That was why he called her a beggar. That was why he watched her walk away in the rain, carrying his child and his shame without even blinking. Months passed. His relationship with Temilade grew. He met her family, attended their events, and dressed and spoke like a man born for wealth. Within a year, they married. Cars, a house, a position in her father's company, and status followed. Everything Kunle had dreamed of, built on lies and betrayal. The world he had always wanted.
Years passed. Kunle and Temilade tried for a child. They waited, they prayed, they fasted, they visited hospitals, they consulted doctors. Yet all results came back normal. Medically, nothing was wrong with either of them, and still no child came. Kunle began to feel something he had never felt before: fear. Because deep down he remembered the girl he abandoned, the girl with his child. And every night when Temilade cried herself to sleep beside him, Kunle's conscience whispered, "You are paying for what you did." But Kunle silenced it. Until one day when Temilade said, "Let's visit a cleric, maybe this is spiritual." It was on a humid Thursday afternoon that they finally visited the cleric, a man reputed to see beyond the ordinary, a man whose words could split the veil between heaven and earth. The cleric's eyes, sharp and knowing, swept over them. "Tell me everything," he said. His voice carried authority, yet there was softness, as if he could feel the pain buried deep in their hearts. Temilade spoke first, tears streaming. "Sir, we've tried everything to conceive. Nothing works." Kunle sat and stiffened. He avoided her gaze. He did not want the cleric to see the guilt etched into his soul. The cleric leaned closer and said, looking at Kunle, "Your problem is clear. You have a child outside this marriage. Until you acknowledge that child and bring him into your home, your wife will not be able to have children." Silence fell like a heavy curtain. Temilade's hand trembled. "Outside? What do you mean?" Kunle swallowed. He felt the sweat on his back, though the room was cool. The secret he buried for so long, the shame he thought he could erase, was about to resurface. The cleric continued, voice steady and unwavering. "Until you bring that child under your roof, you will not conceive. Only then will God release the blessings meant for you." Temilade's tears fell freely now, but instead of anger, there was almost saintly things in her eyes. "If that is the solution, then let him go. Find her. I want to have a child too, and if this is God's way, I accept it." Kunle nodded, trembling, and so the search began. He had searched countless places, but all in vain. Her father's old compound held no trace of her. They had moved to a new neighborhood. She had vanished from his life as if God himself had hidden her. Weeks turned into months. Kunle traveled from one neighborhood to another, from street markets to small villages, asking quietly if anyone knew a girl named Abeni. All he found were rumors. All he encountered were dead ends. And then, one ordinary afternoon, while his driver stopped at a roadside fruit stall to buy oranges, Kunle saw something that froze his heart. A small boy, no more than 7 years old, was helping a woman arrange her fruits. The boy had dark, sharp eyes, the kind of eyes only he could recognize. Kunle's heart thudded in his chest like a drum. He climbed out of the car, approached the stall slowly, afraid that a single wrong move would scare the child away. "Good afternoon," Kunle said, trying to steady his voice. "How much for the fruits?" Abeni looked up at him briefly, her expression calm and unreadable. 500 for the basket, she replied, just as she would to any customer. The boy handed him a few oranges, and Kunle saw it clearly. Every curve of the child's face mirrored his own. The resemblance was undeniable. He wanted to cry. He wanted to call out. He wanted to fall to his knees and beg. But Abeni, she did not acknowledge him. She did not flinch. She did not even pretend to recognize him. "Thank you," he said, voice barely audible. He got back into the car, heart heavy, mind racing. That day, Kunle returned home quiet and visibly shaken. Temilade noticed immediately. "Something happened?" she said. "Yes," he replied, and he told her everything about the fruit stall, the boy, and the woman he had once denied. Temilade's face tightened with concern and resolve. "Then go back," she said firmly. Go bring the boy home. When Kunle returned to the stall a few days later, he parked the expensive car a distance away, stepping cautiously, as though approaching a wild animal. His eyes never left the boy, his son, who knew nothing of the man's existence beyond the mother who loved him. "Good afternoon, Abeni," Kunle said, his voice trembling slightly. I want to talk. I want to explain. I want to..." Abeni cut him off, calm but firm. "You have no right here." Her eyes blazed like fire, yet her hands remained steady on Imole. "After all these years, you left me to suffer. You denied him, denied me for money, for comfort, for a rich woman. I owe you nothing." Kunle took a step closer. "Please, I am sorry. I was wrong. I want to take care of him. I want to be his father." Abeni shook her head. "No, you abandoned us. You can't just appear now and expect forgiveness. You have no right over him. He is mine, and I will protect him." The boy, sensing tension, clutched at her blouse. Imole had never known the man, and perhaps instinctively he feared the stranger with the face that mirrored his own. Days passed. Kunle returned repeatedly, bringing gifts, pleading, promising care, promising to enroll Imole in a better school, but Abeni remained unmoved. Every word he spoke reminded her of the betrayal, the lies, the nights she had cried herself to sleep while he laughed in comfort with another woman. It was Temilade, however, who suggested another approach. "We cannot break her spirit by force, but we can use the law, the power we have, and perhaps the story we create." Ah, the trap they set, not of battle, but of cunning. They accused Abeni of theft, kidnapping, of taking a child that was not hers. One evening, as Abeni closed her fruit shop and prepared to go home with her son, police officers arrived. "Are you Miss Abeni?" they asked. "Yes." "You are under arrest for child theft and kidnapping." The world froze. Imole clung tightly to his mother, frightened. "Mommy, what is happening?" Abeni stood strong, though fear crawled up her spine. "I have stolen no child," she said. But the officers took her anyway. They also took her son. The crowd that gathered watched in shock. Some whispered, some pitied. By the next morning, the news had spread. When her parents learned what had happened, they refused to stay silent. They reached out to bloggers, journalists, and social activists, anyone who could help bring the truth to light. "That wealthy couple is trying to steal our daughter's child," her father said, his voice steady, despite the years of worry and shame he had once held against her. "We have forgiven her for the past, for the pain and humiliation she endured. But now all we ask is justice. She has suffered enough." And then, as if the heavens themselves intervened, a lawyer heard her case and stepped forward. Mrs. Ifema Okoye, a woman of remarkable integrity and expertise. She visited Abeni in the holding cell, sitting quietly beside her as Abeni recounted every detail, every deception, every betrayal, every moment of suffering. Mrs. Okoye listened carefully, her eyes sharp and focused. When Abeni finished, she placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Do not worry, Miss Abeni. We will fight for your rights. Nigerian law protects maternal custody. No child can be removed from a mother without proof of wrongdoing. And if necessary, we will perform DNA testing to confirm your relationship with your son. You will not be silenced, and justice will prevail." A few days later, Kunle and Temilade appeared in the courtroom together, walking into the hall with Imole between them. Their faces were masks of composure, but their eyes betrayed unease. They thought their wealth, influence, and the presence of the child would intimidate Abeni, but she sat upright, confident, her lawyer at her side. The lawyer arose, addressing the judge with firm authority. Your Honor, this child has been living under the care of his mother, Abeni, since birth. The father, Mr. Kunle, has never been married to her. The mother has provided care, love, education, and a stable environment. The Child's Right Act explicitly states that removal of a child against the mother's will, especially when the mother is fit and capable, is unlawful. We request that custody be restored immediately and that protective orders be issued to ensure the child's safety. The judge studied Kunle and Temilade carefully. Is this true, Mr. Kunle, that you have never legally married the mother of this child? Kunle hesitated. Yes, Your Honor, he finally admitted, his voice low and trembling. The judge's gavel struck the bench. Then, under Nigerian law, specifically the Child Rights Act 2003, this child is to remain with his mother. Furthermore, the court grants a restricting order against Mr. Kunle. He is not to come near the mother or child, nor to harass, intimidate, or harm them in any way. Any violation of this order will be treated as contempt of court. A wave of relief swept through Abeni. Tears flowed freely as she embraced Imole, holding him close, whispering, "You are safe, my son, always." And outside the courtroom, the world took notice. People celebrated her courage, sharing her story across social media, rallying behind her as an example of truth and justice prevailing against wealth and influence. Donations poured in, helping her expand her fruit shop into a thriving shop and securing a comfortable apartment for herself and Imole. Meanwhile, life had its own justice for Kunle and Temilade. Temilade, realizing that the infertility and misfortune that plagued her marriage stemmed from Kunle's selfishness and deceit, divorced him. She remarried a man of integrity and love, finally building a family she had always dreamed of. Kunle, on the other hand, fell back to square one. The wealth, cars, house, and luxury he had clung to were never truly his. They belonged to Temilade's family. Left alone, rejected, and humiliated, he was forced to survive once more. His pride shattered, he had nothing but regrets and the memory of what he lost. The restraining order from the court ensured that he could no longer threaten or harm Abeni or Imole, a permanent reminder of his choices and consequences. And Abeni, she continued to rise. Years later, she met Chiki, a kind-hearted man who respected her past, embraced her son, and became the partner she had always deserved. Together, they built a home full of love, laughter, and hope, a home where no lie or betrayal could ever intrude again. The law may be slow, but justice is patient, and when courage meets truth, even the richest, most deceptive schemes cannot prevail.